You every episode say that this is an Obama era show.
Yeah.
You know that? You
Yeah,
bring up the fact that this came out during Obama's presidency every episode of the show.
But it is.
True.
I
It's
genuinely think that every time. I'm like, this is why whenever I get so annoyed with people who are like, man, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they had such a distinct feel, and now everything's homogenized and blurred. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're just dumb. Like, you genuinely think 10 years ago feels the same as now? Like, look at the TV shows, look at the movies, look at the music. None of the. Look at the sky. We still had winter back then, you know?
Yeah.
Like, everything was different. So we thought for this episode, we're gonna go over the episode, but since we're now officially at the halfway point of the show, we're gonna check in with some reviews of. We've talked about it a bit in a few episodes, but we're gonna read some reviews that were released alongside the time Mulaney was released, and the only time reviews were ever released for this show, because this has never gotten a retrospective until literally right now.
Yeah.
So. We're gonna get into that, but let's get in. Well, we can talk a bit about the episode.
Opening monologue, I will say, maybe my favorite of the show so far.
I agree. It's a joke I haven't heard before. He's referencing Johnny Depp's Public Enemies again, which he does in
yes.
The
He's
top
a whole
part.
bit about it.
It's a whole bit about
that.
that.
You could write your name in bullets on the
Which
wall.
it's one of those funny things where it's like, it's not a popular enough movie for it to just be like, well, people are thinking about it. I'm like, oh, you watch this a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I could tell that he watches and we're like, what the fuck, you know? And
Very Obama era.
Very Obama era. Actually, that may have come out before. That may have been Bush Jr.
Oh yeah, it might be.
Weird.
I remember that movie. I remember the trailers, like Johnny Depp hanging off the side of like a car and shit. I don't remember the movie at all, and I know I've seen it twice on FX, but I
maybe that's part. Yeah, I mean, those are the best movies where it's like. It's the ones that everyone knows, but no one can remember, you know? Yeah. Like, what's a good one?
Sky High.
I mean, Sky High. Yeah. I guess not being able to remember it is also part of the appeal, you know?
Yeah. I rewatched it recently. That's why
are you... Oh, okay. Are you going through, like, a...
mental crisis?
A child phase? No, like a reversion to childhood?
Yeah. I've been rebirthed. I went through the rebirthing process of coming out of a tight space, and now I feel like I'm a child again. Heading into this halfway point, and after the upload of the Pete Holmes episode, I went through and re-listened to the Mulaney podcast, like the two where he talks about the sitcom. I think he said it was like a year and a half of like development of the show.
Yeah.
Because like he must have had episodes written, because you can't just go around for a year and a half pitching a show. You have to have shit written about it, you know? Like, so I think it was a long process. So they had to have most of this stuff written by this point, which makes you think, like, why are some of these episodes so bad?
Right. Well, we said this last time, but there's no voice behind it, you know? Like, all of the plot lines, every single plot line has been, like, it's been done to death, to the point where I think, like, the old line about, like, oh, it's supposed to be just, he's trying to be, like, an 80s sitcom or something. Like, if you go look at sitcoms in the 80s, they were already subverting these tropes, you know? They were already subverting my roommates and I are disagreeing, you know? Like, so they were, like, it's harkening back to a time that's so retrospective, it almost doesn't exist. So when someone has, like, this nostalgia about a time and you're like, actually, this is not a picture that was ever real, you know?
Right.
And you're doing these super classic style storylines, but they're so bare bones and there's nothing more there that it just feels, like, insane. Like, it just feels like from another world.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, it's almost like watching someone... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they're playing on a bit that was already playing on a bit. Like, if you could even say that, like, Seinfeld was, like, some sort of disconnected, weird form from something like I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners. Like, something even weirder than that, like taking the sitcom that far. And then playing on the thing that was playing on that makes it, like that's what, like... I hate to say this, but it's like postmodern. It's like were post something like, but the modern wasn't even really defined.
Well, right.
So how can you be post something that isn't something?
It's like
you know what I mean?
To me, it's almost like anti-subversive. It's like pre-modern. You know, it's like you remember that 30 Rock episode where Jenna tries to not get parodied by Weird Al, so she makes an intentionally ridiculous song, and then he makes a serious song.
Yes,
that's what a lot of these plot lines feel like.
It's perfect. That is
it's taking like a normal thing and then making it so like a weird thing and making it normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Mulaney's like, yeah, but it also doesn't want to be normal.
Yeah. And then we have these bits like, okay, so Motif, they're having a roommate disagreement because they canceled the time travel channel on TV, and Motif, where there's a show that Motif loves that's Sherlock Holmes time traveling to different farmers markets. And it's a diverse cast, but they're all Canadian. That's the bit. And so then you think, oh, you use your brain and remember previous episodes of the show, and you go, oh, Motif is insane, because remember, he thought Friends was the news. So here's an example of television and this character, and he's insane. And then John goes, oh, we canceled that channel. It was not good. And you're like, oh, it's real? So what are the stakes of this universe? Like, what are you talking about? Is this character insane, or does he just have an odd taste of television?
Or is he the straight man?
Right, yeah. Is he the straight man? Yeah.
So, even going further back in the episode, they open with, like, this tenant meeting. They're talking about having this tenant meeting, which is funny, because I've never had something like that in my experience
neither have I.
In New York. They must be living in an old... they're obviously living in an old person building. But I kind of like the openings of this episode because it's actually showing these characters living in the world. I actually enjoyed that it's them, like, hanging out, they're filling out, like the time travel thing. I know it's a throwaway joke, and I know it's kind of crazy in context to the other stuff, but I actually kind of enjoy...
I like that it makes no sense. I would have never written that for this show or ever. I was like, cool, you know? I'm glad. Yeah. That's something I wouldn't see anywhere else.
The first, like, 5 to 10 minutes of this episode really feel like these people live in this apartment, they're hanging out, they're friends. I just realized that there's a show... There's a podcast called Talking Talk Tua, where two white guys react to the Hawk Tua Girls podcast, and we're just doing that for something people care even less about. I don't know why I just thought about that, but I was like, we're literally, like, putting so much thought and effort.
Well, we're talking Mulaney. What's wrong with talking Mulaney?
It's just the stupidest idea. Why did you make me do this?
You made me do this. This is your idea.
You don't have to validate if I say I'm going to blow up an airplane. Are you going to go with me on that?
Probably. Well, I mean, I can call an uncle.
Hey, man, don't deceive yourself.
I know. Well, dude, so we can talk about the race stuff in this episode, but I guess next week is even crazier, so maybe we save it for then. But, like...
Yeah, the race stuff gets crazier on the Christmas episode, guys. I don't know if you realize that. But I like the first 10 to 15 minutes.
I do like the idea, too, of, like, the bit about, like, it was the recession and John and I lied about being Katrina victims. And you're like, oh, these two are like real besties, you know. And I wrote here, God, I shipped them so fucking hard. I need to see real love, please, God, oh please. But I think I'm just going through something. But anyways, like, you know, I saw like their dynamic together. I was like, okay, cool. You're giving us a backstory that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I like also that Motif when he was like, what did I sign when I moved in? They're like, you just signed your headshots.
Yeah.
And I think
like he's funny. Insane. Yeah. Like here's the thing. As much as they, like, the core of his character is deep insanity.
Yeah.
I think that is, as much as they divert from that a lot, he's a crazy person.
No, Motif is hurt that he's not on the lease.
Yeah.
So he's like, his feelings are hurt that he's not paying more? Like, that's
I know.
Like,
well,
it's like, whatever.
Right. It doesn't really make sense, because the whole justification they give of, like, if we put your name on the lease, we will have to pay more money, is something any tenant in New York City will be like, oh, okay, good, let's not do that then.
Yeah.
Like, no, not one single person would be like, and this show also loves doing the classic thing of, like, we're talking about this thing as if it's a relationship, or as if it's another thing, you know? And so you see that, like, Seinfeld had the, you know, where guys were talking about friendship, or where it's like we're like dating, you know, and so this is like roommates, or like we're dating. And so Motif goes to his best friends in the world, which are a bunch of brunch women, middle-aged brunch girlies.
Yeah.
And
his homies. He keeps calling them his homies.
Yeah. And I wish, like, so often in this episode, I'm like, I wish the editing was better. I wish the directing was better. Because, like, you just cut to, like, Motif with all these women, and you're like, oh, okay, funny, you know? But that's not how they do it. Like, the Lou scene, so, not to jump, but, like, the subplot in this episode is Lou has this audience plant that he's been using for years.
Yeah.
And then they get into a tiff because he's not under contract either. And he wants to be under the contract. And they introduce this subplot by showing a montage of scenes from the past of Lou, like, doing crowd work and being mean to him, which I thought was very weird, and there was bits in it that I liked, but they just went on too long. And I, like, if it was snappier and cut better, I was like, this is, like, would be one of my favorite sequences of the show. But it just was just kind of flabby, and I was like, man, why is the craft part of this something that I'm being forced to pay attention to, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that should be easy.
Yeah, the whole thing that is like a reoccurring theme in this analysis of the show is that it's like someone told me, maybe in a film class or maybe I read it somewhere, that's like the great director, you don't feel like you're watching a movie.
Yeah, right.
But I can't forget that I'm watching a sitcom because you just see, you said it a couple episodes ago, but you just see the stitches. You see everything so clearly that it's like whatever. And that's a directing problem, I have to say. This is like a flop from a directing and editing on the production side. Even more so than like the writing and the construction of it. Like that could lead to the other problems, but it's like you can tell you're watching a show sometimes.
Yeah, which is not what you want when that's not the, like, they're not Community, they're not being meta and fourth wall breaky, as much as they kind of do, or they, like, so I texted you about this, and I guess we're jumping around, but this is like one of a different episode anyways, but like, at the point where, at one point, Lou calls John a bad actor, and then John gets sad about that, and then it's revealed that the reason he and Jane are happy at all is because Motif always compliments them. And it's kind of throwaway, but in the moment when it happens, and then it was brought up again, I was like, is this a response to people calling him a bad actor? Like, if in the first 6 episodes of the show? Because we'll discover this when we start reading the reviews. That is all people say. The 2 things people say in reviews is, this is like Seinfeld, and John Mulaney cannot act.
Yeah. So John goes to ask Lou advice, which also, again, I like because he's like using these older men as advice. It's like, here's a show. Oscar and Lou are John's 2 confidants. 2 older men. One is an old gay New Yorker. Yeah. One is an old Hollywood star that's in the twilight of his career or whatever. Like, that's a show. That is a show I would watch. But the idea... So John goes, and they're talking about the audience plant, like you said, and there's the contract issue, and Lou says, this is one of the worst jokes I've ever heard in my life. It actually confounded me to where I had to pause the episode. But Lou says to Arnie, his paid audience plant that is not under contract, you're just mad Rogaine doesn't sell tacos.
Yeah, it's definitely the point that it's hacky, but again, the issue with this is, like, I don't know what's supposed to be a good joke or bad joke anymore.
That's the exact thing. It's like, I don't even know what they think I'm going to find funny or not. But, like, the A and B plots in this episode do kind of connect. They're like, the A plot is about contract. They're both about contracts and friendship, like work and business, or, like, kind of like when you have to do something real, but you have a friend. It's almost like when we started running a comedy show and we started doing sketches, it's like, well, we have to be able to say, like, hey, Aditya, that line isn't funny. But, like, you have to, like, be able to break that because it's like, this is not about me liking you as a guy. This is about me trying to make a better product. And so I think that I mean, I don't know what, like, my mom would see in this show because, like, I understand the plots other than, the least thing. But, like, this theme is just very odd. But,
yeah, and you spelling it out like that, I was like, yeah, I guess this is one of the better beat it out episodes that we've seen. Like, it seems more... I like the show at its best when there's not a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And you can feel free to disagree, but, like, when it's focusing mostly on just one plot line, be that with Lou, usually, I mean, obviously it's better with Lou, but, like, or with the roommates, I'm like, okay, cool, like... This, just... And there's... I think probably because every time they change to a different, like, plot line, they have more attempts at jokes at something. Or they're attempting jokes at something on a new target because it's a different plot line. And so then it's like they're less likely that any of them are going to work, right? So it's like this one, it's like you have more shots at the with this material. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess that one was funnier, you know? But and so this one I kind of appreciated because like the loose subplot really is like only 2 or 3 scenes.
And it does feel relatively more focused on like who are these characters that we're following.
Yeah.
Like I even said in my notes, like this would have been better served as like a pilot or episode 2.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like John is in the Motif character of like my friends don't have me on the or something that like because this episode feels so lived in and I enjoyed that aspect of it where they're just kind of sitting around doing bits like where it's like It's Always Sunny would do shit like that where it's like the plot is so minuscule.
But then one of them is, which is fine, like it's a diverse group, but it's also like, were they thinking about the race aspect of it? Because there's like 2 really weird race jokes in this episode, and I'm already like, did they feel weird about like diversity at all? You know?
Yeah. I mean, even the optics of it is odd. Like, isn't it funny that a black guy
has white friends? Yeah,
right. It's like I don't
know.
I don't know
friends
how old
with a white woman. That's crazy. Yeah. Right. Also, that. Yeah. No, they look the same age.
Yeah. So it's like maybe I don't know who he knows.
Sure. Yeah.
I completely believe. What if he was like raised in a white neighborhood or something? I have no
also
idea.
It's New York. It's like it's not like a racially homogenous city. It's like you're telling me a black guy met a white woman, and it's like it's not. Yeah, that happens on Houston every day.
Yeah. Every day they have to do a forum about it at City Hall. So
I just watch with glee and I'm like, unity.
You get on one knee. Yeah. So Motif's friend's advice is to go and learn more about John and Jane's old roommates.
Or exes, because they're dating.
Yeah,
it's a relationship.
It's like that's the whole thing, is that it's a relationship thing. So Motif goes to Andre to get info on Mulaney and Jane's ex-roommates. And like, I wish, because Andre, I knew when I'm watching this scene where Motif is in Andre's bedroom, that it's like, they're not going to show the old roommates. They're just going to have Andre tell them about it. But you should have just done it where Motif is at lunch with the 2 other roommates, and they tell him everything.
Yeah.
Because that's an opportunity for cameos. That's an opportunity for quick little throwaway bits. And you didn't need... I guess they wanted to give Andre any sort of plot or agency in this episode.
Right, because he is a build cast member, you know?
Yeah. So Andre gives him some notes on the old roommates of Jane and John, and it just portrays Jane and John as being petty and brutal from Andre's perspective of what he understood.
Yeah.
And so, like, one woman was a doctor who baked for them, but she sang Happy Birthday with a little too much emphasis. Yeah. And the other guy was, like, a rich kid who paid his rent up front, but they stopped living with him because he called sandwiches Sammy's. Like, that's why they kicked him out. But it's like, Andre is, like, the weird guy. You have to see him as your unreliable narrator. Cause it's
right, and I'm fine with that, within this storyline, Motif believing Andre, because if we're to buy the motivations of the episode, like he's already been spurned and is like in a tizzy and is insane, so like sure he's gonna believe it, but it's also like one of those things where like as you said, it's like I know I can see where this is going like 1,000 miles away. It's like and then it'll end and John and Jane will be like, no, they're crazy, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can kind of tell that. So Andre, we get a little more about Andre in this episode, that he's revealed to live at home with his parents, like he lives with his mom at least. And like I know that this is not what they were doing, but like they don't say that. There's a Jamaican woman that comes in.
And this is what I was gonna talk. Yeah.
This Jamaican woman walks in and I'm like, is that his mom? Like that's my first thought. Is like, are they doing? We're like Louis in the show. His ex-wife is just a black woman, but the kids are completely white for no explanation. But I'm like, okay, so this is obviously a nanny, but like they don't say that, and like it's just like I do like the line. He goes like, I think her name's Gertie. He goes like, not now, Gertie. We're being spies.
Yeah,
but
that's funny.
They do some like hack, like she's chasing him.
Do a hack chasing thing where she's just being very Jamaican nanny, like, and it's. Do you remember? I saw this musical And Juliet, which I think is still on Broadway, but I complained to you about it at the time. But the whole thing was like, they were like rewriting the end of Romeo and Juliet so that she doesn't kill herself, and it's like quote unquote like a hashtag girl boss feminism thing, and they keep talking about it in the plot of the musical, because they break the fourth wall out about like how like empowering and about like diverse and stuff it is. But one of the like the two main characters or her two best friends are like the gay best friend and literally a Jamaican nanny. And you're like, well, if you're gonna just use that such broad stereotypes for two of the main characters, you're probably not that, you know, actually progressive, right? And so that's how I felt, where it's like, do Jamaican nannies exist? Sure. Do some of them yell at their, for some reason, adult like aides de camp? Like, sure. Is this scene still like kind of uncomfortable? Very much so.
Yeah. But I do believe that a drug dealer that lives with his mom is very believable. That is very believable.
Yeah,
that, like,
sure.
A drug
That's
dealer,
every drug dealer. It's every drug dealer is a guy that lives with his mom or someone who just already has $1 million.
That's a great point. I've had two kinds of drug dealers, either guys that live with their mom or guys that like I knew a guy who sold me drugs in college. His name was like Mr. Pimp. It was like something like that obvious. And you'd go to his house and he would just try to get you to do coke all the time. Like, Mr. Pimp, I don't want to do coke with you.
Sir, Mr. Pimp, may I call you Pimp? Maybe that was like
Pimp.
Maybe that was like to throw people off. It's like, oh, we got him. We got the guy who's trafficking sex workers, and it's like, nope, that's not what I do.
No.
You should check out Mr. Weed Dealer. That's what he does.
I also didn't realize that Motif was the new one and Jane was the old friend.
Yes, yeah.
I assumed Jane was John's friend from college based on some of the other plot points, like when she meets, whatever. I assumed Motif and John were living together because they're the comics.
Yeah.
They're the friends that make more sense.
Well, it's almost like they're doing a lot. Every episode they're reminded that it makes no sense that Jane is there, so they keep finding reasons to be like, no, she's actually from the beginning, and Motif is, you know, like, and I guess I can understand that from a standpoint of like, oh, like, we need a third. I know this guy from comedy. Let's just, because comics are always looking for places to say. That's totally true. So it's like, I believe that, but it's funny to see how bare bones the sweat of the writing of like, oh shit, like, you know, we got to explain this to them, you know? Like, have you ever got notes on like a script and instead of like actually taking the time to go through them, you're like, actually, like, you add a line and it's like, oh no, I actually am really sad, and then he kills himself, you know? It's like, well, this came out of nowhere. It's like, no, he said he was sad, like, in the previous episode.
Right, yeah. Like, you try to, like, force in the logic of it.
Yeah.
So, Motif returns home after meeting with Andre, and Jane and John are, like, have all the candles set up, and they're like, Motif, you're very important to us, and we put you on the cable bill, but Motif is like, I wanted to be on the lease, that's not what I wanted to do. And, like, before Motif leaves, he was like, I thought it was the three of us. I guess it's just Jane and her sidekick Mulaney. And then after he leaves, John's like, I thought it was like Mulaney and his two friends. And so like, I thought that was like, okay.
And then Jane goes, I mean, I think of it Jane and her friend Laura. He's like, who? And it's like, you've met her. Which is like, I guess all three of you get to do a little bit. Like, cool, yeah, a little meta bit.
I wrote about that specific line, like, why end a scene like that?
I know.
She's like, you've met her, and the music's already playing.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, what? Like, just end it with, like, John saying his line. We don't need Jane to have a
little...
Like,
right,
Jane
exactly.
Could just be like,
Yeah,
like,
well, because that, like, breaks the fourth wall, you know? It's like, we get it. It's like, okay, that's a little wink to the audience. And then we go to the next scene, right? You know, like, you don't need to have, like, Jane be like, well, no, actually, it's me. And you're like, well, no, it was never you, Jane.
We don't even know anything about you.
We're constantly questioning why you're here.
I like then it cuts back to the B plot of Lou and his audience plant, and there's just a line that I thought was pretty funny where Arnie, the audience plant, he goes, I was supposed to be an actor on Girls. I was supposed to be a fireman. They meet.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, him saying, like as if that's, like, I don't know, there's something about the wording of, like, not that, like, the fireman does anything, they just meet him. Like, it's just, like, so funny to me.
I like that. I do like this character that, like, this is the part where, like, the zero logic actually, I think, plays better. Like, it is very funny to me. This guy is just being offered, like, these incredible roles and could have an insane career, but chooses to just be shit on by Lou. Like, that's great. You know?
Yeah.
That's just a very funny thing of like, no, this is so much smarter what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I definitely like that. The B plot is fine. I think that's pretty funny. And that's what a B plot should be. It's just like quick, short, all bits, doesn't make sense. And then your A plot has a little bit more reality in it or maybe a little bit more of a basis in it. But like, I think once you hit the halfway point in this episode, after Motif like leaves the apartment again after he's not on the lease, like you just start rehashing shit you already saw. Like Motif goes back to brunch with the. Oh my god. Motif goes back to brunch with the ladies, and then it just becomes like Motif is like Sex in the City. Like that's just the whole thing.
Yeah, which is also like okay, like it's somehow both very hacky and also a completely irrelevant joke in 2015. You know, like it's out of date and also still cliched.
Yeah. It's And then, like, Mulaney and Lou are, like, auditioning new audience plants because his audience plants, like, went away. And then it's just, like, Andre's there. And then, like, John's like, you like your friend.
He sucks, yeah.
But then Lou says something interesting that... we got to get into the other part of what we're talking about on this episode, which is the reviews. But, like, Lou says, like, John couldn't be his audience plant for Lou because he's moderately handsome.
Right. And it's the thing where I was like, okay, I wonder who wrote this episode.
So you both acknowledge that you're a bad actor based on the reviews, but also make the best character on the show saying you're moderately handsome?
Yeah.
You know, whatever. There's a lot of fourth wall breaks in this episode.
Yeah, it is always weird to me. Like, I think it's fine. Like, I think that's fine. Whatever. Like, you're allowed to, be, think that you're, you're allowed to have a good self-image. But it is always funny. It's like when you write and choose to star in something, I always am, like... hesitant when that character is also a cool guy. It's like if you're a loser, then cool, yeah, write it and be it. But if you're like the guy who wins and gets everything, it's like that's what you're saying about yourself. If you choose to cast yourself and write it.
I heard Bo Burnham talk about Curb Your Enthusiasm. He likes it because Larry is wrong. Larry is dead wrong on things in Curb Your Enthusiasm, whereas like other shows don't take the risk of making the named character or the lead.
Yeah.
Like, be messy. Be wrong in positions where, like, Larry, don't make a whole improv scene with J.B. Smoove about this. Like,
yeah.
But anyway, like Jane and fucking John have like a whole conversation about how they miss Motif. And it's like, now we get to see the sexual tension. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Did you catch the odd lean in when they're like talking?
Right. Well, there was a moment where they were very close together.
Yeah, but because it's like Motif. He's like, he drowns out the city noise because he's always talking. And Jane's like, yeah, and he always just compliments me, so I'm good at my... And then what you kind of realize, which like is so subtly underplayed that it's almost like this show could have been better, is that they basically miss Motif because he makes it so they don't fuck.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I played that role in literally all of my friend groups of making people not fuck each other. Like more than once, I've like not been gone to a night out and someone was like, "Yeah, we hooked up last night." I'm like, "Am I the only thing? I'm the opposite of a glory hole."
You're a shame hole.
You're a shame
hole. Pit. So Motif then returns.
Can we name this episode John Mulaney and the Shame Pit?
Great. I don't know. I don't even know how we're gonna talk about this. Like all the other episodes, I'm like, okay, thumbnail like this, title like this. This episode, I'm like, how will I?
I don't know. I mean, I do like though the thing of like us complaining about. Man, like, as these go on, we have nothing to talk about, and it's like, we've already been talking for, like, 50 minutes, so... And we haven't even gotten to the thing that we wanted to talk about this episode.
So Motif returns to brunch for the third time this episode, and, like, one of the girls wants him to sign a lease, and then John and Jane show up, and it's like, whatever, they, like, figure out the stuff that, like... Oh, their old roommates actually were weird. Like, one of them stole their credit cards, and then the guy that was rich put a camera in the toilet... But, like, Jane says something very weird. Jane says, like, that guy put a camera in our toilets. Joke's on him. I don't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like,
she has a lot of really weird lines in this.
I'm like,
I guess
what does that even mean? What does that mean? Like, that's so Jane doesn't go to the bathroom? Like, I guess. I don't know what to make of that. So, there's a running bit where John says that Jane looks like Christiane Amanpour.
She's like he compliments me and John's like, I can compliment you. You look like Christiane Amanpour, and then she slaps him because I guess that's bad. And then Motif is like, you look like a French vanilla Katy Perry. Is that what he says?
Yeah, I think so.
And then Jane goes, he called me Christiane Amanpour, and then Motif slaps John.
Right. And I had to, like, look up who Christiane Amanpour was. And I'm like, first of all, Jane doesn't even look like this woman at all.
Right.
And, like, who would get this throw? Your references have to be attainable.
It's a very, like, more than once I was reminded of Family Guy in this episode. And that was one of them where I'm like, this is clearly, you can't say, here's the thing, Family Guy has a voice. That's a show with a voice. Especially when Seth MacFarlane was there. Actually, maybe even now, it's just a different one because it's a different person. But, like, this one, that's a joke that has a voice behind it. And I think it's Mulaney's. Because that's the perfect type of celebrity he would love to reference and, like, kind of revel in the fact no one gets it. And you can get away with that in stand-up. And occasionally you can get away with that in sitcoms, too. Like, Frasier famously had a bunch of references that no one would get unless you're, like, a highfalutin, like, a man about town. But this one, because it's like a runner and like it's supposed to mean something. I guess the joke is that we think it's clearly means something to them, but we don't know, and that's the joke. But it is also just like when you're pushing that up against French vanilla Katy Perry, and like you're like, these are two equal jokes. These are both equally funny in the same way, in the same tone. You're like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't read the New Yorker, John Mulaney. I don't
read the New Yorker or go on TMZ, so I get neither of these jokes.
Yeah, but so at the same restaurant, which is fine because that's just like a sitcom.
I think that's funny. Yeah, it's funny.
Arnie is like, I'm gonna sign a contract. I'm gonna be a big part on The Good Wife or whatever. Where he was like, I'm gonna be in a big role where I have sex with everyone, and I like the idea that this is like old fat actor. Yeah. Like, I just think it's funny. Yeah. And John has this running bit where he keeps telling Arnie, like, oh, no, Arnie, do the thing that's better for your career. Which would definitely cause conflict between Lou and John. Right. And we don't see that. That's whatever. This is the B-plot. We can throw shit away. But anyway, then, like, finally at the final scenes of the episode, like, John and Jane go to this tenant meeting again to add Motif. And a line I actually like is Oscar goes, everyone, John is talking. Put down your awful coffee and listen. I like that because it feels like a voice that's like peeking through on this episode. But I don't know. There's like a running gag with the tenants in John and Jane's building where like everyone keeps having to compare everything to the Nazis, and like the only way they can understand anything
is Gestapo. Like
But by the end of the meeting, John is like off the lease. And the Motif can't even be on the lease, so it's like I don't even know how Motif is happy at the end of the episode because all he wanted was to be on the lease.
I guess maybe it's a co-op or something, but like this might just fully reveal my ignorance about tenants' rights and housing laws in New York City, despite having lived here for fucking 9 years. But this is determined by the people that live there. You don't call your landlord and be like, "Hey, I'm adding someone to the lease." Like,
dude,
works.
I lived there and had many problems with property managers and still never truly understood how any of this... You gotta pay a guy to just open a door for you.
I know. His job is having keys.
I wish that was my job. That's a great job to have. That's why everyone you meet is like, I'm actually a property manager. I'm actually a real estate agent.
A bunch of stand-ups actually do that. Like, I met people looking for apartments who I later saw at open mics.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane context. But anyway, the episode ends, whatever. Then, like, Lou is like... It wraps up the B-plot as the final scene where, like, because Lou gets his audience plan a contract, he got laser eye surgery, so he doesn't need glasses. He got a hair transplant. He dresses better.
And right. And so the joke is Lou can't make fun of him. But I wrote... My immediate reaction was, this guy looks much worse at this. He looks horrifying with the hair. I was like, what do you mean you can't think of anything to make fun of? Like... That was you thought he was fine looking like other than the fact that he was bald. Like what he looks like a ghoul in this wig. I'm sure the guy's nice. I mean, they're dressing him up poorly.
Yeah, no, he's supposed to be
not to mock a man.
He's supposed to be an ugly man. So I don't know.
And then we get that. And then we get that. Yeah, right. Then we get that the weird second race bit I was talking about, which is Lou has this Castilian maid character that is supposed to be, in the context of the show, offensive. You're like, oh, Lou, I think it's very clear we're supposed to be laughing at Lou. That's where the ironic racism of the joke works. But, as we have seen previously in this episode, that doesn't necessarily work when you have a character that is just like the Jamaican nurse, right?
Right.
So then it's are we just supposed to find it funny? You know? Like, It was the same episode. It's not even like I forgot about last week's plotline. This was 10 minutes ago.
I know. So, anyway, this was probably one of the better episodes we've seen so far.
I know. That's so funny. Anyways, this is like the best episode.
Yeah, this is like maybe the second best episode behind.
Yeah.
I think I like the
Father
one. Or no,
I like
Father
Trey.
Trey.
Yeah, Trey.
Yeah,
Father
Father
Pete.
Trey was pretty good. I'm gonna pee real quick, and then we can come back and we'll look at reviews. I'm gonna go pee.
Okay, so let's read the first paragraph, and then we can like pick out stuff. Think it's easy to clone Seinfeld? Fox's dreadful, embarrassing misfire Mulaney proves otherwise, which is really a shame because title star John Mulaney has an appealingly askew, drolly funny style as a stand-up comedian, his spiky material belying his fresh-scrubbed, boyish appearance. All right, so, we're already getting some, but he is handsome, he is, boyish good looks.
Boyishly handsome.
Too bad this shockingly, disturbingly inept series. Yeah, that's a good, disturbingly inept. It's disturbing. I'm freaked out by how bad this is.
It fails ruined this guy's entire week. He was so disturbed.
On his offbeat persona while accentuating his cringe-inducing awkwardness as an actor. His confidence in the stand-up bits, which frame each episode, vanishes completely when the show actually starts. It's as if he's learning a new language on the soundstage, or maybe it's just an allergic reaction to the substandard writing. Yeah, so they said in one paragraph what we've been saying for 7 hours over the course of this week.
Scenes don't so much as flow as randomly collide in a stale format that could give a viewer flop sweat.
Yeah,
flop sweat gawkishly stands expressionless and vague, center stage in an ensemble comedy for which it's impossible to curb one's disdain. Oh my god!
This is like a phenomenal piece of writing, actually.
That's incredible.
Well, I didn't even realize this. On the home from SNL's Nassim Pedrad is Jane rhymes with Elaine. I'm like, okay, I don't know if that was part of it. We share New York, with Motif, Cress Hall's Oscar, and inexplicably swishy clumsiness by a what the hell am I doing here, Elliot Gould. That's funny. Oh, they say Martin Short is coasting. I don't know if this is I don't know if he's coasting.
If this is meant to evoke the good old days
of Dick Van Dyke Show, which we talked about in the previous episode.
Dick Van Dyke, it backfires. This is less a case of oh Rob, as in oh no John, please don't quit your night job. Let's hope John Mulaney's back on the stand-up circuit soon. Maybe this experience will give him some new material. Can't imagine why.
Which it didn't, because he just talked about it. I guess willingly, but inadvertently on a podcast, but then never again.
Yeah, well, he said that he was going to start the Comeback Kid. The reason that it's called the Comeback Kid is because of the failure of Mulaney, in a way. But he said he was going to start the special saying, well, I thought it was good. And everyone told him, nobody even knows about this show.
Right. That's really
friends
funny.
of his and Pete Holmes were this is... Pete Holmes says on the podcast, I told you not to do that. Because it's dude, I never fucking thought about this show. If he came out on Comeback Kid and said, I thought it was good, nobody cares. Nobody thought about your stand-up career can be so separate from your TV career. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it is always good to not lean into the fall of that kind of thing, It's whatever, just do stand-up.
Say shit.
Just do stand-up, yeah. Okay. So we just read what I believe is the least positive review of Mulaney that we can find, which I honestly think was an incredibly well written piece. I have no notes on that.
No,
I was
beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So now I think more interestingly, let's read the most positive one, which by the way is still a B-, still not great.
Yeah.
And they watched the first 4 episodes. So just as a reminder, that's Pilot, The Doula, Halloween, and then I think it's the John
Sweet
and Jane. Sweet Jane. They're will they, won't they? And it's not if Motif is there.
There are some blackened, hardened veins running through that heart, and it's this hidden wickedness that provides hope at the end of the fall season's shakiest comedy pilot that features no internal monologue.
I don't know. I think that's a reference to something else he wrote.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mulaney knows how to wield a milquetoast facade to unexpectedly dark ends. This is the positive review.
Yeah.
AV Club says it has to go through the messy work of converting the star's existing material into stories that function with an ensemble. Roommates Jane and Motif, boss Lou, wacky neighbor Oscar, and pot dealer nuisance Andre. With Mulaney playing himself and occasionally reciting his own words, it falls to his co-stars to color the world of the show, done most effectively when they give the lead character reason to be nervous. In the grand tradition of Seinfeld, The Bob Newhart Show, and Everybody Loves Raymond, the guy with his name in the title lends the show its voice. It's supporting players who give life to the thing. Yeah,
and here's the fundamental mismatch is that he doesn't give it his voice.
No, it's
if
not
only he
well
did.
Done.
Yeah,
no, it's not well done at all. There's no voice in the show at all. It's the fundamental problem with the show is it just doesn't have any sort of identity. Like at least Family Guy is like, the people that wrote this have some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder with celebrity reference to where it'll cut to like John Goodman eating all the food on the table and not giving any to his kids, and it's like, oh, you think John Goodman's fat? Like, okay, like you're thinking about celebrity, you're cutting away exclusively to celebrity reference, to famous athlete, actor, director, or like everything is in some way a reference. Even like Quagmire telling a story about being in the U.S. Open. Is it the U.S. Open, the tennis one?
Yes.
Like where he hit the ball so bad in 2001 it made 9/11 happen and everyone blamed, like whatever. Like there's an obsession with pop culture and reference in that show to where you're like, oh, this is like Gen X. This is like the obsession with like the culture that like someone like Nirvana was able to play on by being opposite to that, and like you could like play on both sides of it. Whereas Family Guy coming out in the 2000s is like, oh, this is like in reverence to it almost. Like, let's reference these characters because we know you know who these people are. There's
it's very end of history. It's like this is the last thing, that nothing more important will happen other than the times of the 90s, so let's just talk about it.
Yeah, and so Family Guy now falls to that same exact issue.
Well, now they do just meme references that aren't even making fun of memes. They're just like, come on, kids, please.
I mean, if you want to see the failure of modern day Family Guy, you have to watch the Donald Trump episode where he's got an orange painted face and tiny hands. It's like, what, did you watch Stephen Colbert and now you're like cackling to yourself?
I know. It's like, it's crazy because they'll make fun of Bob's Burgers and SNL and stuff, and it's like not only are your jokes like as bad or like significantly worse, they're as bad in the things you're making fun of them about. You know, like in the things you're saying are hacky. Like you're hacky in the way you're doing it. You know.
They referenced 30 Rock in the AV article though.
Yeah. Well, so this is interesting. Okay, so when everyone gets a fair chance to play, Mulaney finds its right type of weird. The ingredients are here for a show that's more than a showbiz satire or four friends, and it starts coming together once Andre's hoisting heavy home furnishings all by himself, and Jane is seducing her new cat into sharing a bed. Am I forgetting when that happened?
I have no idea what that's referencing at all. I have no idea when Jane seduced her new cat to share a bed with her.
Does he mean just like a guy? But also, when was that ever part of it? Like,
I have no context for what that reference. Maybe they got like, there is a reference in one of these reviews that we're reading that talks about that there's an episode that everyone saw but was not released. So maybe there's something in that.
Whoa,
there's a secret Mulaney episode.
Is that true? Where is that? I didn't know about that.
It was on one of the Rotten Tomatoes ones. It talks about how we saw this episode, but it was not put out on any sort of media. So I guess there's an episode they shot that wasn't released. So maybe there's a 14th hidden episode.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I've seen. Yeah. Wait. Okay. So Tim Surratt. Here we go. So I've seen 2 other episodes, including one that was sent to critics a long time ago and has since disappeared from all of Fox's media materials. Whoa.
I need it. I need the secret Mulaney.
Okay. That's we got to find. Oh, okay. Here. This one. Okay. The Atlantic by David Sims. Mulaney's Weird Dark Edge. The new sitcom from an SNL writer has been panned as formulaic. Are critics missing the joke? Let's see. Are we missing the joke? Have you watched Megalopolis, the Francis Ford Coppola movie?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
It's so weird.
It's the best comedy I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is like a meta comedy where it's
and
like
I've gotten
you're
in
laughing.
arguments with people who are like, no, it's actually good. And I'm like, I don't know how you could believe that watching this. And this article that is apparently trying to defend Mulaney, the sitcom, is piquing my interest for that exact reason. Titles, whose premise is saying, okay, yeah, how can one not think back to Seinfeld? But something's different. The opening scene is about our hero trying to scam some Xanax from his doctor, or Jane. This succeeds beside having no punchline. There's something striking about the harshness of the show's jokes clash with its hyper-formulaic presentation. I can see what... Okay, I can argue for its promise, but Mulaney has debuted to pretty terrible reviews. He wrote some of SNL's best material. He kept much... When Riley... This is interesting. Fox president Kevin Riley bought and retooled the pilot after NBC passed on it, and he said in an interview that he was more of an admirer of Mulaney himself than the show he had made for NBC. The new pilot reflects that, leaning on his established work as a stand-up, which is obviously not going to be a long-term solution for its plotting. Right, of course. The original pilot did not outright crib material from Newtown, but the Fox pilot does. That's interesting. So clearly that means that the president of Fox was just like, I like you, Mulaney, so we have to make the worst scenes that the show has had, where they're reenacting episodes from Newtown, and put that into the thing.
I mean, there's no bigger flaw in the conception of the show than the fact that it was pitched to NBC, denied, changed, and then sent to Fox as like a fucking junkyard, rusted old car.
Well, so here's what this our writer's argument is he saying that these jokes are very harsh because of the way all the characters suck and are like, or whatever, with its and it has hyper-formulaic presentation. So I guess what his argument is that it's weird, but within the confines of a network sitcom, so that's what makes it even weirder. And I guess so, but he's saying that that's different from Seinfeld, but that's not different from Seinfeld. That's exactly what Seinfeld was. Like, everyone's mean to each other, and nothing makes sense, you know? And, like, yeah. I'm trying to think of, like...
I mean, we could get into the world of the fact that, like, critics really are, like, maybe some of our most brain-dead media enjoyers of the modern century, because, like, these people seem to have no concept for what people actually enjoy, and they've shat on things that actually ended up being very good and people actually really like. Like, I mean, the amount of movies that have, like, critic reception, 13%, audience reception, 99% is, like, the best in... And, like...
I mean, and I don't think that's necessarily... Like, I'm a detractor of bad critics all the time, but I also think people like really stupid things, you know? Like, I'm always one to be like, yeah, this people like this and it fucking sucks. And I think there is a value to criticism in that. Otherwise, it's like, well, what the fuck are we doing? Like, it's supposed to be for people, you know? It's like, if you're not meant to think like analytically or critically about it, then why the fuck are we even trying, you know? Like, I think there is a value to expressing that and writing it. That said... Sometimes you just get stuff like this that is just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, do you know anything about the world? Like, like, I mean, like, the world is an Earth. Like, this was not work. Like, this doesn't work as anything, you know? Like, are critics missing the joke? Missing the joke of what? There is no joke. We're not missing it. We're seeing it directly in our face, and and I hate it.
And the time between now, knowing that Mulaney's career was okay, kind of makes all of these, like...
Maybe that was part of it. Like,
will Mulaney be able to overcome this flop? It's like, well, we know he did, so it's more interesting to talk about it now. But, I don't know, dude. I don't know about... Like, there's, like, comics who are like, I don't care what anyone says, I'm doing me. And, like, that's like, fine, whatever. But, like, then there's, like, a point where it's, like, sometimes criticism is, like, has too much, like, personal stake in it. Like, I always feel internally, and maybe you can correct me on this, because I might be reading this situation that you and I were literally in wrong. But when we performed our play, or our one-act play at Brooklyn Comedy Collective, and the guy who was giving us feedback, like, explicitly called me, like, a douche, I'm like... Well, you really shouldn't call someone who's like, you know what I mean? Like, didn't you call me like a douchey asshole or something?
Well, he was like, the character. There's a part in in it where you like kind of take control of the narrative, and he was like, it's making him come off. The jokes are coming off as kind of douchey, like the way he's doing it, and I'll say to that point, it was very much like there was a lot of jokes in there where I was like, yeah, it's not gonna work for, the venue we were doing it at. We'll leave it, It was a very specific tone. And they're very clear about that in their like all of their when you're auditioning for stuff for them. They're like, we want you to have taken a bunch of classes because it's like we want you to know our exact style. But I'll also say we did that show the next week, or 2 weeks later, and it killed. It was like the best show we've ever had, and it was after, significant rewrites to that scene too, and so I think there was a value to us like. I think maybe there's a value to us at least being given the framework of like, let's look at each of these pieces, But I'll say that the thing that actually was of value was bombing horribly for 30 minutes on stage and then being like, something needs to change because we're doing this again really soon,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much his notes helped so much as us being like, we have to be better.
Yeah, it was more like rewriting what the bits were, making everything tighter, and having that like that idea on you that like you have to do well because you just did pretty mid at like the first performance. But I do think like I only bring that up to say that like sometimes these critics and reviewers bring their own personal thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's sometimes too, it's like, and nowadays too with like websites, like everything does have like a political bent, and you can see like people like and by political I don't even mean like left or right. I mean, like, a thing that embodies a cause. Lots of times people will want to, like The Interview, for example. You remember that the Seth Rogen movie, The Interview? I remember it when it was finally released being seen as like its champion of free speech, and it was like a bipartisan thing. Everything was happy about it, and I would see websites like rated highly or that much higher than I knew that the people writing for those websites would actually care about this movie, and it was because of what it represented, And so like, and there's other examples of that too. But yeah, there's definitely like personal things. I mean, look, every positive review of this that I've read has not been because of the show. It's been because of the same thing that the President of Fox did, is because we really like Mulaney, And obviously that's a powerful thing. It's the reason we're doing this is because we like Mulaney,
Right.
But we're not lying about the quality of the show. We're not like outright stating that it's actually good. You guys are missing things.
And I don't know. I'll say this and I can cut it if it's not like, but it's like, I'm only analyzing criticism because someone who's reviewing this show positively because they like Mulaney, I wonder if like in certain contexts, if we did shows where we didn't do a lot of sketch shows that got direct criticism back to where we could actually respond to people other than like our friends or ourselves or like comics that came out to the show and could give us like notes or advice. So it's like getting some response from it was good, but like having someone who spent a bunch of money on something, or like Mulaney who like put a bunch of like his hours and clock time in, like if we didn't do some like irreverent show about American history and we did a show about like, our vaginas or something, like I don't know. I just think like sometimes if you play into something that like a specific like Fox has no identity. There's no identity to Fox. Like, what are we trying to like hold this example to? But like, like Brooklyn Comedy Collective, something like a sketch theater, like a UCB or like something that it makes more sense if they're trying to play into some not political as in like you said right or left, but political as in like. Making sure that it's not just like white people on the stage, making sure it's not just men on the stage, like you trying to be conscious about these things and not casting it out. Because now we've gone in a complete other right direction to where it's like, well, fuck DEI. It's like, well, that's not really what we were, like, I'm a comedian. I'm not mad about fucking DEI. That didn't take any fucking jobs from me. The shows just suck. If you have like a fucking Mindy Kaling show where she's doing, so like, we talked about this, like Mindy Kaling making shows and there's like people on Twitter being like, I wonder if this show she'll have an Indian character fall in love with a white guy. It's like that is a more fundamental issue that we can actually talk about versus some stupid like, well, DEI, they have too many black people in the writers' room. It's like that's not what it is. It's like accurately being funny and like norm to like a regular public's experience. And it's like Mulaney isn't even trying to fucking do that. So there's like just comparing, like if any modern reviewer had to review any of this shit, they would be like, like, whatever. It's just like, you wouldn't even be in that scope. There's no political. They would acknowledge that there's some weird race.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does, like, it harkens back to, I don't know if I've said this yet, but it's a very Obama-era show.
Yeah.
And it harkens back to, I think, that time of like where the most like social, like you could just be like the cause that it's representing is just championing Mulaney as a guy, you know, and being like, nah, it's fine, it'll get better. Like the AV Club episode is like every episode gets better, like of the first 4 that we've watched, and it's like that's not true. I've watched the first 4 episodes. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so it's like being able to rally around a person is a value, and being rally around like something like it's easier now. It's like a more translatable like political messaging because you can be like, oh, this person's story is important.
Yeah.
But it's like that's not really comedy though. Like if you want to make like a Netflix movie about something or like some sort of Oscar nom movie about like what was that movie? Oh, fuck, it was like all black and white and it won like Best Picture. It was about like the people.
The Artist?
No, it was like a different one. I forget. I wish I knew the name of it, but it was just like a Spanish speaking movie about these people who like work at like a rich house.
Oh, Roma
or like Parasite. Like that is something you can rally around because you believe in the thing at the core of it. But no one's gonna rally around Mulaney because it's like, you like the guy, you like his. Again, at the time of the Mulaney show coming out, it's like he has a 30-minute album. No, I'm thinking of someone else. But he has like an hour album,
and an hour. Yeah.
So there's like 2 hours of material you can base it on. And people liked him, you know. He was like he had a lot.
Well, no, I mean, and like, look, it was universally panned, like more or less. Like the nicest reviews were still pretty lukewarm, but there is and so like if you're him, I can imagine it being like feeling like the end of the world. Like I could just see my name was like this sucks, and like you're like fuck. But it is interesting how like even in that there's people defending him not because of the quality of the show, because of him. Like I feel like that must have felt at least a tiny bit good, you know, being like everyone wanted this to be great. Everyone wants what I'm doing to be really good, and look, it wasn't, but at least I know that people like me, you know?
Yeah.
A bunch of people like me.
He said that his mom said that to him. It's like, do you know how big it is that people are still defending you even though your show is being panned? Like, that's a really big place to be in, which is important. And, like, you know, there was a journalist, Mulaney says it explicitly in that interview. He's like, a journalist said, like, we're a week away from the premiere of Millennium, which is like being a week away from being shot in the face. That's a review that someone wrote about this television show that you and I have now decided to do a Rewatch podcast about. Like, I do feel in some way shot in the face, but by confusion. I don't feel like shot in the face by bullets.
It's a stun gun.
Yeah, it's like a taser where I'm on the ground, not understand. My girlfriend watched one of the episodes with me, and she's like, John Mulaney feels like a guy that you worked with 4 years ago, that you never really... You had like a good relationship at work, but you didn't have a personal relationship, but you still follow him on Instagram. And what's funny about what we're talking about now is that, like, even my girlfriend watching the show now, like, John Mulaney, despite public shame of, like, a drug problem, of what I don't even find it shameful, I'm just saying, like, there was, like, some amount of, like,
the backlash of whatever he had,
and, like, the show flopping, but having such an incredible skill for stand-up, there's an indescribable defense of his capacity to be likable that you can't deny. That's at the core of entertainment, that he's such, like a figure that people, like, he's unique, too, because he is calling back to an older style of stand-up, but he's so modern in the topics and the material that he talks about, that it's like, this is just such the perfect guy for a mesh of these two things. That's like, you can't even deny that this guy is like wildly likable and wildly like defendable.
Right. That's actually an interesting point that I think that we maybe haven't talked about enough, is that like this show more than anything is the best example of John Mulaney's appeal as a performer and as a star. I'll say star, but I wouldn't say actor. I'll say star because I think he is one, but because of stand-up, you know? Maybe the last guy to do that. But, like, because you see every single one of his flaws. His worst habits, his worst tics, obviously, like, his acting, but it's, like, you see the things that, like, he, like, cares about that you probably shouldn't think that much about, you know, all of that is here, and it's portrayed in the least flattering way possible. And yet at the end of it, I'm still like, well, he's a good guy, you know? Like, you still, like, as much as, like, as he is correct about calling out the toxicity of parasocial relationships and how he's become kind of, like, the figurehead of that, I get why it was him, you know? Like, you're gonna inspire.
Do you think Lena Dunham went through this with girls? No. I mean, they were talking about her weird autobiography where she talks about, like, a weird thing with her sister. And, like, nobody gave a fuck about, like, Lena Dunham's likability at the core of Girls because Girls was good enough to be a show on its own. And going back to one of our former episodes with Pete Holmes, it's like Pete Holmes and Crashing ended, and there wasn't a core likability outside of Pete's core audience that listens to the podcast that's going to follow him through this. But John Mulaney has wide, unabashed career, like an adoration from people. That people are like very interested in what this guy has to say. And I think his thoughtful, definitely intentional lack of explicit sit-down interviews, explicit, like, giving, like, I mean, Louis kind of the same way, like, not always going out there and doing a podcast and giving his opinion on everything, so that when you do, it's like withholding, so that when you do, it just becomes something valuable. And I think Mulaney has been very, I mean, I don't know if intentional or unintentional, but strategic in that way, that he's able to do
Donald Glover is similar to that, I think.
Donald Glover is the exact...
and I also think similar. That is very much a luxury that not all celebrities have, you know, especially the modern ones who made their name on podcasts. You don't get to not be there because the only reason you're famous is that you're always there in my fucking feed, you know. There's like a way I heard someone describe Beyonce as having transcended the charts. And so meaning like the Billboard charts, meaning it's like it doesn't even matter if like her lead single comes out and it doesn't do well, you know, or like if she even releases a single. Like she could just drop an album and everyone knows it's gonna sell 1 million copies and people are gonna go to her tour and it's gonna win a Grammy or like whatever, you know, like everyone knows that, like, because she doesn't need to be always in your ear because she's just reached that level where, you know, I'm gonna follow her no matter what and anything that people come out. And that's when you get to that point, and it's a rarity, and not a lot of people, I think it's getting rarer and rarer. If you get it to it, I think it's very valuable to just be like hide away and then come back, you know?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's just like you go away, you work on your shit, and you present something so undeniably good. I mean,
it's
Beyonce
very
won
much
country album of the year. She's
it's
a pop
very
artist.
Much a messiah complex. The goal of all of our artists is to go away for 3 days and come back with something even cooler.
That's really true, man. It's like the disappearance. Like, I mean, dude, I think maybe one of the biggest, most influential comedic performances of the past 5 years was Bo Burnham's Inside. He's done no interviews. We have no word from Bo Burnham since Make Happy, 13, and then fucking Inside, and the guy is silent.
Eighth grade,
not 13.
13 is the one with Evan Rachel Wood.
Sorry, 8th grade. But it's the same thing. It's like the idea of you being like that is the next tier. Beyonce, John Mulaney, like being able to actually, because like, dude, look at us. We're doing a fucking John Mulaney Rewatch podcast to try and get a little bit of a following on our fucking sketch.
Can we do a clip of you just being like Beyonce, John Mulaney, and then cut into like other great figures from history? You just cut out there.
I just screamed.
Oh, blew it, the thing. Yeah. That's funny.
No,
what was 100%. What was the thing I was referencing? Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
You're talking about Beyonce.
Yeah. No. But I thought of something. I forgot it. But yeah. So that it is funny. It's like it's an example of you know. Were you ever a Dragon Ball guy?
Mildly, not really.
Well, so there's a part in it where like Saiyans, the alien race that Goku is if you like really get the closer you come to death, if you heal from that, you become even stronger. So there's like a part where like one of the villains is like, kill me, like actually almost go do as much as you can to almost kill me and then heal me and I'll be more powerful than all of you. And that's almost exactly like what this sitcom is. He's like, he's doing everything he can to die so that he can come back and transcend everyone else.
Yeah. But the thing is, you have to intentionally go in and think that it's good. That's the thing, is like you do have to
You can't intentionally fuck something up.
No, because when they try to do like meta commentary, like it's even like some of the reasons I don't love like the Eric Andre show, because it's like a meta thing, and it's like no, you have to be genuine in your pursuit to have any chance of some sort of organic growth from that. And it is like that Dragon Ball thing, because it's like John Mulaney thought his career was over, and then he went back to stand up and put out what I believe might be one of his, maybe his best.
Yeah, I think it's his best. Yeah,
I think Comeback Kid is like better than everything else. It's the most like accurate because even like Kid Gorgeous, he's like kind of like yelling to a theater.
Kid Gorgeous, I think is a culmination. It's very much like this is what everything led to. Your Radio City. It's like these bits are crushing in front of like thousands and thousands of people. But I think in terms of quality of jokes, Comeback Kid is like just easily the best.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the thing. Is like that's why he's such a fascinating figure because he's so incredibly good and it has played in these nuances and stuff. And it's like, dude, flop sitcom, Scandal. Like he's just survived everything. He is the Bill Clinton of comedy. He just has to know until those Epstein tapes come out. Whatever John Mulaney's equivalent of an Epstein list is, we won't know. We won't know. But I think Mulaney. You know, we got it. He did a whole special about it. We got with the dark skeletons in the closet we're going to be, and now he's better than ever. I think there's going to be an incredible next special that might surpass anything else. Like he's really.
I am very curious about it. Like it is one of those things where it's like, now we're not even really talking about that, but it's funny about like. It's something I was wondering is like he was at the peak of his popularity when the drug stuff and the divorce stuff and whatever all came out, right? And so I would imagine that when you are recovering in that process of recovery, that is what your mind's going to go to. That is what you're going to want to write about. So those are the jokes you're going to write. But he was also in a situation where that is also anyone wanted to hear from him. You know, when he came back, and so it's not the best. It's unenviable, but it is one of those things where it's like if that happened to him in 2012, like right after New in Town, before he got the sitcom, he had a core audience, but it wasn't huge. Like, would he have released Baby J? Like, would people have given a shit? It wouldn't be a thing people were clamoring for, being like, what is he going to say about this? But he would still, I'm sure, have had experiences where he would want to write that material, you know? And so it's an interesting situation where it's like Richard Pryor, when he was, like, after he set himself on fire and came back, it's like, yes, this is a hugely humiliating failure. It's like the thing you were saying about, like, when he was at the level where at the Comeback Kid, they were like, don't talk about the sitcom of I Thought It Was Funny because no one knows what you're talking about. He got to the point where it's like, well, this is all I can talk about, but it's all you want to hear anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's also just a commentary on modern entertainment. It's like the complete synthesis of like you don't even have the capacity to be separate from your real life person. Yeah. You don't even get the opportunity to have a persona. Like Shane Gillis has to do some sort of throwaway reference to being fired from SNL. Louis has to mention that he was canceled sincerely. Exactly. You can't. It's like you have no privilege of persona anymore. Yeah. And like Mulaney is like, it's for a long time it felt like it was like all persona, and that was what was entertaining to watch, and he was maybe one of the last people to have that privilege. But like his ability to transform that into something that's actually like really deeply entertaining and like embarrassingly in a TMZ way, where it does feel like drama. It does feel like, oh, we're getting a peek behind the scene. But you know, I mean, I don't know. I just think that stuff is just very fascinating. Like the way people, like if we ever get to reach a level where we can actually talk about things and like make those decisions and like make sort of like broad entertainment choices. I mean, we're analyzing it, and like the process of analysis also is like kind of like mythologizing in a way. Yeah. Because you have to engage with it enthusiastically and authentically, because like for him to be like, and then I'll do this special where I talk about my like, there's no way
he was thinking about it like that, right? As much as if you look at it in retrospect, there seems to be an arc, but it's like you can't think of your career, but also just life like that. You know, like you have to just live it.
The arc is inevitable. The arc is inevitable because if you're actually living your life and doing things and making decisions in real time, it's inevitable. So I just think that is just like a fundamental... I mean, being entertainers and having this sort of separate thing where it's like I put on a nice shirt and go to a club down here in Tampa, or you go do your shows around town and like go to an open mic and like all this different stuff that you and I do.
You'll go to a club, I'll go to an open mic. Yeah.
No, I'm not being rude. You have things. I'm just saying like our lives are different because of the scenes.
You have things.
You have things. You have a show at City Winery, which anyone can go to. This is probably not going to be out before that though. But I'm
That's
just
the problem
saying,
of like doing all these episodes in advance. Like, not that anyone's listening. Whatever, go on. Sorry, finish.
I'm only making we have different ones.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you do these things and you have this separation, but like the only thing is like the pursuit of something that like is working. It actually works. That's what's fun about stand-up is because you actually have to be funny, because if you're not funny, it's obvious. So it's like Mulaney can talk about his life in a real way and talk about his drug abuse and his, like, you know, Baby J is just like a very funny special.
Oh, we didn't even talk about, did Baby J come from this episode of TV? Because he says that, right? Motif calls him Baby John at one point, right?
He calls him Baby J explicitly.
He calls him Baby J.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I don't think anyone else in the world knows that, because no way has anyone revisited the show since Baby J has come out.
The origin of Baby J. That will be the title of this episode.
Okay, good. We'll have this clip. We'll have that as a good clip.
All right, let's stop talking about it.
Okay, cool. All right, okay. I'll stop the recording.